floral strategies. I was somewhat skeptical and I really didn't want to spend the money at this time, but I thought, well, why not? So we took his course and we saw immediate results. We are actually totally blown away. Works very, very well. Highly recommend it. And don't hesitate, just do it.
All right, well, thank you, Kim. She's an FSN member, and welcome everybody to Shop Talk with Tim, the 2022 version. We're glad to have you with us, and I want to jump right in. And for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Tim Huckabee. I am the president of Floral Strategies. We are the only company in the entire world whose sole purpose is helping retail flower shops, often small stores like you, to thrive and prosper, to sell more, to serve better, to get more traffic in the door, to make more money for the hard work that you do. We are really, really proud and pleased to be entering our 25th year of business and to have this opportunity to be invited by Flower Shop Network to share some of our methodology with you, introduce you to the fact that yes, there is an option, there is a possibility, there is professional help that you can get, like Kim did, to help your business to thrive. What we're doing is 6 sessions over the course of this year, and they are going to be on different topics. We're going to tie them to a holiday. What we're doing today is giving you a sample, just a sample of our Valentine boot camp. This is a webinar production that we've been putting on every year for the past 11 years straight. And it's always an amazing sellout. We had over 457 flower shops in attendance when we conducted this last week. We had stores as far away as Australia, as near, for me at least, as New York, Canada. It was pretty awesome. So what we're doing is giving you a sample, some highlights, some tidbits. We're going to spend about 20 minutes going over content. We want to leave some time open at the end so you can do some Q&A. So I'm going to jump right in. What we're going to do is break this into 3 sections. Section 1 is us addressing the big questions that everybody is asking. And you probably know what they are already because you've been asking them as well. Section 2, which isn't going to be included today, but we'll kind of gloss over, is a live design demo, some inspiration for Valentine's Day, some new ways of looking at roses. And Section 3 is where I kind of go into my bag of best resources and proven methodologies and practices and give you an idea on how to improve and optimize every critical department in your store. So let's start off with some of the big questions. These are questions that we've been asked by phone, by email. These come in through our Facebook group. And the question that we get most often is, how much should I buy? It's a tough one. And on a certain level, I'm reluctant to say you should do this or you should do that because I don't want to be held accountable. At the same time, what many of us in parts of the country can't predict is the weather. You know, not everybody is in Hawaii. Some of us may have to contend with a snowstorm, and that can swing sales one way or another. But I've got some food for thought. So consider this. As all of you know, and you're living every day, the demand for flowers remains high, which is fantastic. And we will talk about this in a future webinar. Are we in a bubble? Have customers' patterns and thinking shifted fundamentally toward paying more for retail flowers? I don't know. But what we are aware of is that the demand for flowers remains high. Secondly, this isn't going to be a typical Monday holiday. Up until pandemic, what all of us did would, depending on the day of the week where the holiday fell, look back in our records. Oh, and the last time it was a Tuesday, our sales were up this much over last year or down this much, and I can kind of gauge accordingly. But what I can tell you, I hear many florists telling me that they're doing this year is kind of buying in alignment with what they did this year. So not overly extending themselves, but not being too stingy either. And, you know, in a worst case, or let me rephrase that, in a best case scenario, you'd sell out. I'd rather sell out than have tons of extra stock left over. By the way, we'll show you at the end, you will have a chance to ask questions and interact. You'll be able to raise your hand and we will unmute you, or you can type in a question. Here's another one that comes up quite a bit. The struggle across not just our world, but retail in general. How can I get enough help to make it through the holiday? And that's a tough one, because coincidentally, even yesterday I had a webinar scheduled and the flower shop owner called and said, I need to postpone it because half of my staff caught COVID. So that's a definite factor in getting enough help. But I want to give you a couple of ideas to think about. Number one, consider bringing in inexperienced designers or flower arrangers. We tend to think back to the good old days where you put an ad in the paper, post an ad online, and you'd get people who were qualified come in, and sometimes even with all the fancy letters after their name, and that's optimistic. It's probably not going to happen. So one of the things that we talk about in the design portion of our Valentine bootcamp was bringing in people with minimal skills, basically teaching them how to create the fundamental designs that you're going to need. A dozen roses, even I can create one of those, and I was never trained as a designer. So that's something to think about. Maybe having some of these people that you bring in do even the setup work, the greening for your design team. Another option is on the delivery end. I've seen lots of flower shops, especially in smaller towns, do this. Reach out to your local fire departments, police departments for delivery help. You think about it. These are the people who know your community. They know every street. They probably know many of the people that you're going to be delivering to. And this is a really great way to get extra help. And the nice thing about this, these are going to be adults. These are going to be people that you can trust. These are going to be people who aren't looking for a full-time career. They're looking to maybe step out of retirement for a little while and make some extra money. So if you don't do this already, consider this. I'm a big fan of this idea, and I've seen this work out really, really well for many, many flower shops. Another big question: how much should I offer on my website? Again, I am reluctant to give you a definitive answer, but I will give you some food for thought. And that is simply, don't offer too many choices. There's a fundamental shift into the way that flower shops and retailers in general are marketing over the web. I don't want to give you a specific count, but you probably can skinny down what you're offering. Look at it this way. This is kind of a good gauge. If it didn't happen this Christmas, last Christmas, you maybe had 12 different designs on your website. The intention was, oh, we'll give customers lots of options and lots of price points, but there were probably only 3 or 4 that sold really, really well. Bearing that in mind, consider skinning down your choices, and definitely focus on flowers and not containers. And I think that's one of the great things about your flower shop network membership. The images that you have, the images that they supply on websites for you are focused on flowers, focused on what we do, not selling those expensive, overpriced containers like the wire services do. So what you should do is offer designs that are even photographed in a way, if you're going to photograph some of your own, that take the spotlight off the container and focus more on the flowers. And that's what customers want. They want beautiful flowers. They don't want to pay for an overpriced container that's just going to sit in the basement, like at my mom's house, where she probably has 39 containers sitting down there at any given moment. Here's another question: how much should I charge for roses? And I will come clean on this. This is my personal pet peeve. What I mean by that is, over the years, I've had this question posed to me, or I've heard it. Let me rephrase that. I've heard it posed at various floral conventions. A designer's on stage creating arrangement, and somebody in the audience will raise their hand. How much would you charge for that? You can't ask that. That's not an answer that comes from a social media group or just pulled out of thin air. This is simple math, and I'm giving you a little bit of tough love here, but florists have to do the math. You already know the answer, and the answer is predicated upon: what is your cost? What are you paying for the roses? What do you charge for labor? What are the other elements going into that design? Any accent flower, greenery, anything that you're adding to that, and then your profit margin. It's simple math. It's not something that you're gonna create. You're not gonna gauge it upon what you think people will and won't be willing to pay. Be unafraid to charge what you need to charge. Your customers will pay it. Sadly, I've seen so much rambling in Facebook groups about florists saying, I can't charge $100 in my little community. I'm just going to skip Valentine's Day this year. Wonderful. So not only do you miss the opportunity to lose tons of money, you are driving your customers when they need you the most into the hands of the competition. So before my blood pressure goes up too high, let me give you some advice on this. Price with your calculator and not your fear. Again, you know all the metrics, what you're paying for those roses, what you have to pay your designers. So come up with a number that's based on what's going to put money in your pocket. Also, go the opposite of the traditional thinking. In other words, a very common commentary is, well, I'm worried because I see the grocery store selling roses at $29.99. Who gives a hoot what the grocery store is selling for? You're never going to be able to compete with them. Grocery stores are part of multi-million-dollar conglomerates. What you need to work on is offering your customers a unique experience. So I advocate going go the opposite direction. Offer them something spectacular. Give them a chance to spend more money with you. Make an impression. Okay. Moving right along, as I said, section 2 is where we got into a design video, and Steven Santos is part of our team. He is a very well-known designer who just won the Iron Designer competition in Florida last year. So if you do get a chance to watch the full version of Valentine Bootcamp, you can watch his videos. Section 3 is where we came up with an action plan. So what we did was took a look at each department in your store and came up with a plan on how you can maybe do things a little bit differently in the past, work around staff shortages, deal with the change in customer patterns and expectations, and put more money in your pocket. I'm going to give you highlights from each of those. So the first part on the sales end, okay, people will argue, I don't need to worry about sales because I'm going to be turning them away at the door. We're going to have more sales than we can handle. You know what? You can never have too many sales. I've never heard a successful business owner saying, oh, I have too much business or too many orders, provided, of course, you've got the product to fill it. I get that part, but here are a couple things you should consider. Reach out to the media. What often happens is the day before Valentine's Day, you'll get a call from the local TV station. Oh, we'd like to come in and film, and everyone is looking at each other like, what are these people, crazy? We don't have time for that. You do have time for that, and make time for that. Reach out to your local media now in January and say to them, if you want a kind of feel-good story, you're welcome to come and visit our store when we're kicking off Valentine's Day at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning or whatever the heck it is. It is free advertising. Do you know how much you'd pay for that kind of a plug on TV? And this is an opportunity to get it for free. So by all means, reach out to them. They will love it. Another thing that you can do to impact sales is use better language. The problem with our industry is, writ large, we've never been told how to definitively engage customers. And we kind of dance around the edges and we ask them, would you like this? And do you want to try that? And what do you think of this? Customers want our advice. Customers want our guidance. And just the tip of the iceberg of the program that Kim was talking about at the beginning of our workshop is using language like I recommend instead of do you want. Saying to customers, this is what I suggest, instead of asking them, what do you think of this? And when it comes down to that customer who is undecided or indecisive, a very easy way to save yourself a ton of time is to jump in and say, a real customer favorite this year is ... I'll be using that myself. I'll be working retail for the holiday, and I know that cuts through a lot of the thinking and plotting that customers do. And typically what a customer will say to me is, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so good to hear. Or they will say, that made my decision easy. So control the sale. These are two ideas that you can implement quite easily. Let's talk about a couple things that you can do in the store. One of them is set up a writing desk for customers. This is a picture of a store that I visited in Michigan a couple of years ago, and they've got quite a bit of floor space, but if you can see in the background, their counter, this in the foreground, their writing desk is away from it. And especially at Valentine's Day, this would be a good way to kind of control the flow, because obviously a lot of us are still concerned about having too many customers in the store. We want to keep everybody healthy and happy. This is a way of kind of keeping the flow going. So if you wait on a customer at the counter, you can say, if you want to step over there, we have a writing desk set up for you. Make sure it's filled with all the tools that they will need, pens, cards, all of that. And that will make for a smoother flow through the store. And it's little things like that that make an impression on customers, because I too, as a consumer, want to feel like I'm not being rushed through something, rather than kind of crouching on the corner of the counter and scribbling a card. This way the customer can take a moment and kind of reach in for his inner Romeo and really put his thoughts to paper in a productive way. The other idea we have for you is to think big. And on the top is, familiar. This is kind of standard, safe, mid-America flower shop offerings. Nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, there's nothing really over the top. Arguably, these are the price points and designs that you can get anywhere. And what we advocate is go big and offer 100 roses. Every single year, we have small flower shops, again, like Kim in Hiawatha, Kansas, and others, who will say, okay, sat in your Valentine workshop, kind of bit my lip, and I thought, I'm going to try it anyway. And they offer 100 rose arrangement, sells it instantly, sells in a heartbeat. It's a classic example of they won't buy what they can't see. And it's also a classic example of we have to get out of our own way, because we get too caught up in the mentality of like, well, I'm in a little town and I know who our customers and I know what they'll spend and I want to do is spend, and we overthink it and we think ourselves out of a sale. So what I am advocating here is go big. And maybe 100 roses, maybe you're low on roses. That's a possibility. In some capacity, offer something to your customers that's grandiose, that's luxurious, that's at least twice or three times everything else that you offer, and you will sell it. Let's talk about what to do on the design end. This is a picture from a flower shop that I worked with in London years ago. And at this particular Valentine's Day, everything they had was purple. And they were kind of bold and kind of, I would almost say arrogant, but what they said is like, purple is the new red. And okay, I get it. That's courageous and it's new and different. But I wonder if they alienated people who wanted the traditional. That said, I think you can have this on balance and offer some monochromatic designs to your customers that aren't red. Maybe go with all purple, all yellow, all pink, and not just roses, but arrangements with assorted flowers like you see here. Like the graphic says on the right-hand side, this is your chance to think outside the box and truly engage your customers with the design they're not going to see at the other flower shop in town. They're definitely not going to see at the grocery store or Costco. Make them want to come back and shop with you more often. One of the big points that we always put forward in our training is the idea of make it easier for customers to shop at your store. And a super easy way to do that is to give them bundles. You can call them a bundle, you can call it a package. The store where I was working in Indianapolis last week, we were talking about it, and the language we came up with, their version of this, they're going to call it the Loverboy Package. So what they're doing is they're taking their standard dozen roses, this is a little bit more than a dozen, a teddy bear, a box of chocolates, and they're putting it together and selling it as the Loverboy Package. And all they're doing is adding up the cost of everything as the same as if they were buying them individually. So you're not giving a customer any kind of a discount. There's no need to. All that you're doing is you're making it easier for them to buy in one shot, because we know that often men feel a little uncomfortable shopping for flowers. They're desperate for advice and guidance, and with a nod to kind of being efficient and getting customers in and out of the store as quickly as possible, if you're making it easy for them to buy this one Loverboy package at whatever you're going to charge, you're going to sell quite a few of them. I promise you that. Obviously, a big part of any holiday is going to be delivery. And in terms of delivery, what I see and hear flower shops struggling with constantly is what you're charging for delivery. And my gosh, we probably have a whole complete webinar just on delivery charges. Delivering to a hospital or delivering to a funeral home for free In general, I'm not a fan of that. I get it and I understand the dynamics and I've heard some logic behind it, but you're not earning your angel wings because you don't charge for delivery. And do you really want to be known as the flower shop who doesn't charge delivery? I'd rather be known as a flower shop who has amazing design. I want to be known as a flower shop who gives extraordinary customer service. I want to be known as a flower shop who has fantastic flowers that last such a long time. So the point here is, what you want to do is take a look at your delivery charges. If you haven't raised them in a while, it's time to do so. Interestingly and almost comically, what I find is that flower shops will raise their delivery price at Valentine's Day and nobody says boo, and then they dial it back, which is nuts. So if you're going to raise your delivery charges, keep them there. It's the beginning of the year, good time to do that. We all are dealing with increased costs for labor, for gas, for insurance, for vehicle replacement. You shouldn't have to absorb that cost. The customer should be paying that. My final comment on delivery is use these dots. This is something we did at the flower shop where I worked here in New York City a million years ago. All different ways that you can do it, but think about it this way. If this map on the right is where you deliver, these different parts of town or zip codes or areas, you can assign a different colored dot to each of those areas. So for example, at the top on the right, the north end, it might be that every delivery that you're sending out that's going to the north end gets a red dot, an inconspicuous sticker on the delivery card and on the order. So the designer knows, oh, I've got to finish those first because they're going on the first run. A delivery person knows if he or she is going to the north end, they really should only see orders in their vehicle with a red dot on it. What you're doing is you're helping to minimize mistakes. You also can use dots to indicate that there's an additional item that should be added, that the order includes a box of chocolates, a teddy bear, something else. Because of the volume that we're doing, it's really easy for mistakes to be made and for something to fall through the proverbial cracks. This is a simple way to put it on everyone's collective radar that there's something special or different about this order, so pay attention. Finally, we'll talk about the most critical part of the mix, your entire staff. And I have two very smart ideas for you. Number one, have a meeting. And what I hear often is, well, they're just the three of us and we talk all the time. That's not a meeting. When I say a meeting, I am implying meeting as a group outside of normal business hours. Does that mean, that might mean coming in half an hour early? That might mean closing the shop a little bit early. It might be staying afterwards. It doesn't have to be a big corporate meeting with a write-on wipe-off board and a laser printer, but I would advocate. If I owned a retail shop, I would have done it already, but I would definitely get my team together in the next week or so and just go over the particulars of Valentine's Day, what your prices are going to be, what your store hours are going to be, what your policy is, if this happens or that happens. Get everybody on the same page and it will make for a smoother holiday. The other smart idea that I still use myself when I'm helping out, which I will be for Valentine's Day, is go to the dollar store, get these composition books for every one of your staff members, and a week before Valentine's Day, give it to everybody and say, do me a favor, over the course of the holiday, jot down ideas. When customers ask for things that we don't have, write it in here. Quick note, doesn't have to be a paragraph, it could just be a one sentence. If customers are making comments on something, good, bad, or otherwise, let us know. If customers are talking about other flower shops, scribble that down. If you have an idea of like, ooh, I saw something some other retailer was doing and we should have done that, then you as an owner manager will collect these after the holiday and it is a treasure trove of ideas. I know this for a fact that if you were to ask me on February 15th, all those same things, my response would be blah, 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 blah. I have no idea. My brain is jelly by that point. But when I go back and I look at my notes, it's fascinating what I find, and then that becomes a blueprint for next year's Valentine's Day. And even on a nearer horizon, you can use that as a set of ideas for Mother's Day. I have always kind of a little bit of a smirk on my face referred to Mother's Day as Valentine's Day with better weather. And it truly is to a great degree. So there you have it. Those are highlights of our Valentine boot camp. I want to pause for a minute before we bring on one of my colleagues from Flower Shop Network to talk to you, just to see if anybody has any questions or comments they want to ask us. We've got Don from my office with us. If you want to ask a question, you can click the little icon that looks like a hand and raise that, and he will unmute you. As long as you are on a computer that has a microphone, we'll be able to hear you. Otherwise, you can type a message in the chat box. He'll read it to me and I'll respond to you. If by chance you are watching this or listening to this on your kind of traditional desktop computer at the shop, you probably don't have a microphone, so we won't be able to hear you. But I'll pause for a minute, see if anybody has any questions or any comments before we bring Irving on board from Flower Shop Network. And I will give you my contact information at the end, so if you have a question afterwards, you can reach out to us, and we will be sending you, everybody, a recording of this session, so you can go and play it back and then reach out to us as well. But it doesn't look like there are any hands going up, and I don't see any messages being typed into the text box. So to keep us on schedule, Irving, do you want to jump in and join us?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Tim, for a wonderful presentation, like always. And a special thank you to all, yes, and a special thank you to all of our members attending today's webinar. But yes, no, we're ready for Valentine's, and I just want to give our members some reminders. One of them, like you mentioned, is making sure that they adjust delivery fees on their website and prices to make sure that everything is correct. And if they have social media, which I'm sure everybody probably does, like Facebook and Instagram, make sure that a link to your website is there, because we want to make sure that you get as many orders as possible. If you don't have an email campaign, we highly encourage you get one. Those go to all of customers that have ordered from you in the past through your website. And the other thing is the add-ons. We cannot emphasize those enough, that you now have the ability of creating and customizing unique add-ons, especially if you have something specific and unique for this Valentine season. Or if you would like to have the option of a customer to leave a tip for your driver, that is something new that you can do. But we want to say thank you, and we wish you a happy Valentine's.
Thank you, Irving. And I will say that that feature of giving your customers the chance to leave a tip, amazing what I've seen and heard happen about it. I had kind of mixed feelings about it, but every flower shop that I've worked with who's turned on that feature, it's phenomenal. The money is pouring in, and they're using to divvy up to make that a tip pool for the entire team. So it's a really interesting way for you to, in essence, give your staff some more money for their hard work. So what are the next steps in our journey this year together? Number one, if you've got any questions, email me, call me, text me. As I said, you may be shy and you don't want to raise your hand and participate. I get that. You may disconnect from this webinar and think, oh, darn it, I forgot to ask him that. Here's how you can reach me. Also, watch your email tomorrow. We will send you a copy of this recording, and there'll be a PDF as well. So if you want to watch it again and take notes, you can do that. FSN members are some of our favorite customers, and you always get special rates on everything that we offer. That ranges from programs like Valentine Bootcamp to our customized webinar that Kim was talking about at the beginning of our workshop, to actually bringing me on site to your store, which I will be doing in Louisiana later this week. So I get out of cold New York City and get to have some good Cajun food. And then mark your calendar. You've been registered for the entire series, but we're going to meet again. We're skipping months. We're going to meet again in early March. And at that point, we're going to talk about Mother's Day. So on that note, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and best of luck for a prosperous Valentine's Day. See you in March. Bye-bye.